It was William Shakespeare who said in Twelfth Night, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them." Taiwo Oyedele, chartered accountant, economist, business strategy consultant, chairman Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, is a man who fits in all three categories. No doubt he was born great. By dint of hard work, he has achieved greatness. And in the course of his journey so far, greatness has been thrust upon him. In the last 2 years, Taiwo Oyedele with his team of eminent men and women, members of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform, have worked tirelessly to birth a new Nigeria in the all-important area of tax and fiscal reforms. The crowning glory of their effort, the signing into law the 4 tax reform bills by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday, 26 June 2025, is a huge testimony to the resilience, dedication, and patriotism of the man, Taiwo Oyedele. On Wednesday, 18th June 2025, Taiwo turned 50. And to mark this landmark, a policy dialogue tagged Special Birthday Lecture was held on Wednesday, 18th June 2025. The event was kickstarted with the delivery of a paper on Designing Tomorrow, Policy Blueprint and Lessons for the Future, delivered by the celebrant himself.
Distinguished guests, policymakers, professionals, academics, industry leaders, friends, well-wishers, and family members, thank you very much for honoring me today. May you be honored in a very special way. Today is a day of celebration, but it is also a day of reflection and renewed commitment. I'm honored and humbled to stand before you, not just to mark another year in my journey, but to share ideas about the future of our country that demands courage, creativity, and conviction from all of us. Each birthday reminds us that time moves forward, but progress is never automatic. Progress is a choice. Looking back, the blueprint of progress has always been written by those willing to think differently, act boldly, and serve a cause greater than themselves. As I woke up this morning, turning 50, I did not feel any different. So I'm reminded again that life is not about what happens to us, but what we make possible.
Mr. Oyedele shared with the audience a situation report of the Nigerian tax system, which necessitated the setting up of the Tax Reform Committee.
Let me share with you some of the key findings from our tax reform journey so far, which is the reason that informed my decision to do a policy lecture for my birthday. And many people are saying, who does lectures on their birthday? It is true, at least according to Benjamin Franklin, that in this world, only 2 things are certain: debts and taxes. Nobody will debate whether we will die, because we will, but many people argue whether they need to pay taxes. Ultimately, let me tell you for a fact, we will all pay taxes. We can choose to do it in an orderly manner by paying those taxes to the government, or in a chaotic manner, such as when government decides to print money to spend, as was the case under the past administration, resulting in high inflation and erosion of purchasing power. When we print naira to spend, the 1 naira you have in your accounts, your wallet, will reduce proportionately, good as government taking a fraction of your money from you. Also, when the tax system doesn't work, we often pay more costly implicit taxes when we have to take on the role of government. Unfortunately, these chaotic taxes disproportionately impact the poor and vulnerable, thereby worsening inequality. It is therefore in our enlightened self-interest to ensure that the tax system works in an orderly manner. Our tax system suffers from archaic laws and a complex administrative structure. There is trust deficit even between and among governments. Low tax morale and widespread evasion resulting in a very low tax to GDP ratio, one of the lowest in the world for many years. Businesses, large and small, are overburdened with multiplicity of taxes. There is poor accountability for taxes collected and how they are utilized, and there is weak fiscal exchange as taxpayers often see little or no benefit. There was a general lack of policy coordination and overlapping roles and nuisance taxes embedded even in the Constitution. Tax is no longer just about the social contract, as we were told. What we found out from our work is that it's bigger than that. Tax is a socio-economic contract, which holds that taxes are the economic consequences, that taxes are the consequences of economic activities, and therefore government policies, including taxation, must not distort legitimate economic activities. And that when taxes are collected, they are a means to an end, not an end in themselves, in that they are used for the well-being of the people. Therefore, tax policies and other government policies must not undermine the well-being of the people. That is the socio-economic contract. Government policies, beyond generating revenue, tax reform can help us address some of our most pressing national challenges. Imagine a tax system that is intelligent, with a robust beneficial ownership law, unexplained wealth order, assets and liability declaration that is robust, conflict of interest reporting and declaration, and ensuring that doing business with government makes sense in terms of the rules, from procurement to contracting, to how we pay contractors, to imposition of regulatory fees, using technology to develop e-governance. We will greatly reduce corruption and therefore improve our society. In the United States of America, for example, it is required that if you steal anything, you must declare it in your tax returns as stolen assets. Of course, many people will not disclose it, but at least we have one more offense to count against you when we find out. Misinformation and lack of understanding were rampant as we were doing the work. Some analysts and even tax professionals did not understand the difference between zero-rated and VAT-exempt. And they said, this government is confused. Why did they turn it from exempt to zero-rated? Labor union opposed the tax bills that will benefit workers the most. But at the end of the day, perspectives matter. We see things differently.
Mr. Oyedele then proceeded to give a lowdown on the work of the Presidential Committee.
So, what are the major tax reform measures introduced in these reforms? The tax reform focused, and this is very important, Many people get it wrong. They think that we're trying to generate more revenue. No, that wasn't the instruction Mr. President gave us. He says, reform the system, make it simple, people focus, growth focus, and competitive. And you know what? When you do those, the revenue will come naturally. We do not place the cart before the horse. Some of the key changes include full income tax exemption for over 1/3 of all workers in the private and public sector, higher exemption threshold for small businesses, now set at 100 million naira per annum, changes to make essential consumptions like food, education, health more affordable by zero rating them for VAT purposes, reduction in the cost of doing business for businesses because they can now claim input credit on their assets and services, simplifying and rationalizing taxes so there are not too many, addressing distortions created by the various incentive regime that we have and lack of clarity, and providing a level playing field. We have priority sector incentives, boosting export, and providing tax relief to prevent double taxation for Nigerian businesses operating internationally. Others are changes to income tax laws to attract remote work opportunities, enabling Nigerian youths to thrive in the digital economy. Introduction of the tax ombudsman to protect the vulnerable taxpayers. Attractive tax regime to encourage formalization of businesses. We have large informal sector. Our current system discourages formalization. These reforms will change that. Faster tax refunds and lower withholding tax rate and some complete exemption in some cases to reduce the cost of working capital for businesses. These reforms will make tax evasion more costly while simplifying compliance. There will be improved accountability and reporting, more revenue, and fairer treatment to subnational, also in the reforms. What should the blueprint for tomorrow look like? Our aspirations must become actionable steps and must be institutionalized as systems that ultimately serve the people. As we look ahead, what should our blueprint for transformative action look like? I have some ideas. First, we must prioritize inclusion and national interest over sectional or self-interest. This was a major issue we had to deal with and continue to contend with. Policies must be people-centric, not just statistics, and must be inclusive to incorporate various perspectives, ensuring that every voice is heard and every key stakeholder is included. Contending with the interests of groups and agencies shouldn't feel like an economic civil war, where in some cases, some deploy even government resources to fight the reform of government that is meant to benefit all. Second, we must use credible data for policy, and I said this earlier on, but it's so important. One major shortcoming of democracy is that majority decides outcomes, which do not necessarily work when it comes to making sound policies. Just imagine that we decide as a country that we will ask Nigerians whether they would like to pay taxes, and we will implement the outcome. I'm sure you know what the answer will be. And that answer will mean that we no longer have a country. So, in policy formulation, credible data and evidence should be prioritized over popular views. The biggest test for our democracy should be when people and businesses choose to live, work, and invest in our country, even when they have the option to do so elsewhere. Third, we must invest in people to build capacity and visionary leadership. No nation or institution can rise higher than the people who drive it. Education, innovation, health, and creativity Creativity are not luxuries. They are the foundation and building blocks for sustained progress.
Mr. Oyedele made an appeal.
Dear policymakers, colleagues, distinguished gentlemen and ladies, and friends, we must remember that boldness is a renewable resource. The courage that transforms societies must be nurtured every day in what we say, how we think, act, and lead. Nations are made by the policies that they make. And not having a policy is in fact a policy itself, except that it's chaotic. It means we rule by discretion and we create uncertainties. To the elites, and I know I belong to that group, we must apply more intellectual rigor in policy debates, challenge long-held theoretical beliefs, question assumptions within context. We must avoid crowd-pleasing analysis because after the applause, the pain will remain. The government should focus on doing only what the private sector will not do and collect the least amount of tax in doing so without compromising the required minimum quality standard. The government should be intentional regarding non-inflationary spending, priority, and quality of spending. After all, that is the essence of the socioeconomic contract. The people must seek first to understand because ignorance compounds vulnerability and steals opportunities. We must think independently, ask questions, engage, and most importantly, criticize constructively with the sole aim to build, not to tear apart our nation. To paraphrase Nelson Mandela, wishing that your government fails or thinking ill of your country is like taking poison and then hoping that it will magically kill your enemies.
And on next step,
the reforms being introduced are not done. We still have unfinished business. We need to lower corporate tax rates further on corporates to attract more investment and stimulate expansion of businesses. Think about it. With the high inflation, a high tax rate will invariably be taxing capital, not profit. It will be paper profit, but it will be capital you are taxing. We must address regulatory overreach, embrace digitalization, particularly in government services, refine our tariff system to reduce the rates on raw materials and intermediate products, which currently are twice the average for sub-Saharan Africa. We make input costs too high. Addressing our tariffs and regulatory hurdles is the equivalent of granting waiver from all income and consumption taxes. So this is a low-hanging fruit. We also need fiscal reforms to complement a strong and stable naira, such as payment of taxes in naira by Nigerian businesses who do not generate dollars. Despite having a comparable trade balance over the past 10 years as Kenya and South Africa, the Nigerian naira has lost 6 times more value than either the South African rand or the Kenyan shillings. This underscored the need for the fiscal, monetary, and other policies to work together for us to have a strong and stable naira. I'll close with gratitude and final words. My profound appreciation goes to Mr. President for the opportunity given to me to serve our dear nation along with my team members. And I have to put on record, Mr. President understands the reforms. Mr. President did not, up to this moment, dictate anything to our committee. Everything we proposed was a result of our debates, not perfect, but we were not influenced in any way. So, and I think we should appreciate Mr. President for that. I would also like to appreciate the Honorable Finance Minister and CMA, and my dear brother and friend in this mission, Dr. Zach Adedeji. I'd like to appreciate their excellencies, the governors, for their support, honorable ministers, our distinguished senators and honorable members, all members of the Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, our secretarial staff, and volunteers, including tax club students from 22 universities across Nigeria, and to the patriotic Nigerians who spent their hard-earned money. A Nigerian came to us and spent 15 million naira of his personal money. After we explained the reform to him, he couldn't understand why anybody was fighting them. He said, I'll help you translate to Yoruba, Pidgin, English, and Igbo. He did the interview and spent his money to do all those 15 million naira without asking for anything. And for those that did not have money, but they applied other resources, including their time, to help us promote the reforms, we are grateful. To everyone who supported or opposed the reforms, your questions and critics made us better. The roles you played, the ideas, questions, collaboration, and guidance have enriched my path personally more than I could have imagined or ever hoped for. Words are insufficient to express my gratitude. Finally, today is not just about celebrating what has been, it is also about affirming what lies ahead. Let us move forward with boldness, wisdom, and hope. Rather than wait for the future, let's go out there and build it. Thank you very much for paying attention to me, and may God bless Nigeria. God bless you all.
Mr. Oyedele's paper was followed by a panel discussion on bold policies for prosperous future, pitfalls, lessons, and prospects. In the course of the program, a documentary on Nigeria's fiscal reforms journey was shown to the admiration of the audience.
In the heart of Africa's most populous nation, a bold transformation is unfolding, one that touches every household, every business, and the future of Nigeria's economy. This is the story of a bold journey to fix Nigeria's broken fiscal foundation. For decades, Nigeria's tax system was tangled in outdated laws and a web of overlapping taxes and multiplicity of collecting agencies.
It's always a problem for us to even get a grasp of what the system in itself is as a business person. I will tell you that the system we met, which is, of course, you call the tax system in Nigeria now, to us, it's more punitive. It's more like we want to punish you for doing well or trying to put items together called business. And which, of course, sometimes it bothers us. Why will I be doing so much? And the establishment, now the government, would not even appreciate, but rather they will bring all kinds of tax laws and all that.
I think we are being overtaxed currently. In this government that everybody is struggling, I think that's too much, to be honest. So I don't know, maybe the federal government needs to work on it.
We pay the local government tax and the state tax, all kind of tax, we pay it. When they came to collect the tax, we paid them, and they give us paper as reference for payment.
Some taxes we are receiving, some fines, we don't know where it's coming from. Sometimes they will give us local government bill, they call it third permits. We pay it. Sometimes we bring expected bill, we pay it.
Most entrepreneurs ask us is that, I don't want to register my business because of taxes. I don't want these tax people to start pursuing me. If I register my business now, will I start paying taxes? Which one should I register so that I don't have to pay taxes? How much tax should I pay?
It hasn't been so good, like what the stakeholders will say. we will tell you that there is double taxation. There is, most people say the people on the lower cadre, what they call the informal sector.
Compliance was hard. Trust was low. Nigeria's tax to GDP ratio hovered below 10%, amongst the lowest in the world. Tax morale weakened. 4 in 5 adults would rather evade their taxes, and most taxpayers do not trust the government, according to a 2019 tax perception report by the NESG. Evasion flourished. Citizens then asked a hard question: what are we getting in return for taxes paid?
To have work in this country is not that easy. Governments are supposed to have to create some, what will I say, foundations that will teach the secondary school students how to get handworks. They will not be waiting for government to do something for them.
And even if you ask me to pay taxes, why should I pay a tax? Because these people, they are not doing anything with our taxes. This is one of the reasons why people even resist registering a business. You know, there's no willingness I've not seen anybody who willingly wants to pay their taxes.
The government is not supporting me in any way in my business. Would they pay for television, for radio? Would they pay for even to cover our shop from the rain?
So I want them to be active in their work. When I rent them money for something, let's say something I rent them money for, be okay. I will benefit from money I'm paying.
I must say, as we speak now, we are using a generator. We are clearing the gutters ourselves. We are tarring the road ourselves. We are digging the boreholes ourselves. All we know is that you walk in and say, pay tax.
You are talking about getting more taxes, aggregating it, making it so attractive to people to pay and all that. People will ask you again, the ones I paid last year, how was it used?
On day one, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a promise to fix the tax system and build a fairer, stronger economy.
I have a message for our investors, local and foreign. Our government shall review all the complaints about multiple taxation.
That promise became a plan. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms Committee was formed to simplify taxes, raise revenue fairly, and rebuild public trust.
The committee has been established to address the broad physical challenges facing our economy. Its mandate shall be divided into 3 broad areas. These are: 1. Physical governance. B. Tax reforms. And 3rd, growth facilitation. We should no longer tax investment or production, but focus on returns, incomes, and consumption. This government will tax the fruit, but not the seeds.
The task before us is substantial, yet pivotal. Our fiscal policies could benefit from better crafting, grounded in data and evidence, ensuring coherence and consistency. We need enhanced alignment with the modern economy and better coordination with monetary and other policies. Many of our existing laws are outdated, hence they require comprehensive updates to achieve harmonization and address multiplicity of taxes, remove the burden on the poor and vulnerable, while addressing the concerns of all investors, big and small.
This must not be just another talking shop. The steps that you are going to recommend, that you are going to agree amongst yourself as the best for this nation, are eagerly anticipated, so that they too can be an important input into the regeneration.
Quick wins came shortly after. Some executive orders to provide relief and cushion the impact of subsidy removal and naira flotation, a new withholding tax regulation to ease tax burden and cash flow strain on businesses, both large and small. The Economic Stabilization Bill was introduced to harmonize taxes and set the stage for critical reforms, followed by 4 major tax reform bills. But change is never easy. The tax reform bills were greeted with debates, controversies, heated media activities, and some doses of misinformation. The conversations grew louder and sometimes divisive.
The Council acknowledged that the country is underperforming on all indices as it regards yield from major revenue sources, also our tax to GDP ratio, and so on. So after extensive deliberation, NEC noted the need for sufficient alignment between and amongst the stakeholders for the proposed reforms.
We are saying that we need to talk. That's the whole point, so that we tell you where it is hurting us.
President of Nigeria set up this presidential committee to review our tax law and fiscal landscape. They've worked for over 1 year, and the output of their work is what is before the distinguished senator as the 4th tax bill. Here with me today is Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the chairman, presidential committee that Mr. President set up. And with your permission and the time, I will just yield to him to lead us through the introduction and the item on the bills, and we'll be here to answer questions.
Yet, through dialogue, constructive engagement and negotiations, consensus emerged.
The forum reiterated its strong support for the comprehensive reform of Nigeria's decade tax laws. Members acknowledge the importance of modernizing the tax system to enhance fiscal stability and align with global best practices.
The reform bills passed, setting the stage for a prosperous fiscal future for Nigeria.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it.
I must commend the effort of the National Assembly to disagree and agree up to this point, because I can assure you this is the last journey on this bill. From now, we are progressing forward. These are 4 bills that will position Nigeria more strategically when it comes to economic growth than any other bill.
The Senate now adopt the conference committee report on the tax reform bills as presented and as explained. Those in support of the adoption of the tax reform bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The tax reform bills are hereby adopted.
With the new tax reform laws, a new era begins. But passing laws is just the beginning. The true reform lies in implementation. For businesses, lower cost. For citizens, better services. For Nigeria, a sustainable fiscal future. But this journey is far from complete. More work remains. We must train, digitize, build trust, and complete the remaining reform measures to finish what we've started. This is not just a reform, it is a reset, a transformation to move Nigeria forward and deliver shared prosperity for the people.
A befitting birthday gift was given to Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. In just a week after his birthday, the 4 bills, the fruits of the Presidential Committee's 2-year labor, were assented to by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Thursday, 26 June 2025. The acts take effect from January 1, 2026. The Presidential Committee has been saddled with the implementation of the reform agenda. Here is wishing Mr. Oyedele a very happy birthday and the grace and wisdom and strength to tackle the tasks ahead.